Okay, Dick, I think we should start at the beginning. Do you want to tell us about how your journey with art began?
Yeah, there's no problem. When I have a memory, a very early memory of being about 4 years old, and my mother invited my cousin over. We lived in West London at the time, and she was a teacher who taught general subjects, but her interest was also art. And my mother showed her a drawing that I'd done at the time of a plane. It was a Comet, which was a really new plane then. And my cousin saw this and said, "Oh my God, this is absolutely wonderful. This boy's got talent," and all the rest of it. So that's the earliest memory I have of doing art that I did and that people saw. And I think that was, although I was only 4, it was an encouragement to get me continuing to draw and so on. So that's how it all started, I think. I love drawing animals, and I also love drawing people. Portraits were always a very great interest because I wanted to capture the likeness all the time. I suppose it's between animals and people that I particularly liked. I wasn't interested, for example, in drawing a horse in a field. That didn't have much interest. But I went, for example, once there was a circus that came to us where we lived nearby, and I talked the circus manager into going into the tent which had the camels in it, and I drew the camels. He told me that I wasn't insured, so if anything happened to me there could be a problem, but I assured him I'd keep out of the way. And apart from the smell, it was a very good experience drawing the camels up close, so that was very exciting. I've always loved art all my life, and I love all kinds of art, and it spans from even early church memorabilia right through to Oriental art and modern art. So I'm interested in art, period, in all its facets.
But I believe there was a bit of a seminal moment for you when somebody sent you some art equipment, and from them I think you were even more enthusiastic about it and painted quite a lot. Can you tell us about that?
Well, what happened was I was a kid playing with my mates, as we all did in those days, out on the street, and the word came to me on the jungle wire that this particular parcel had been sent to me from America. One can't imagine how exciting that was. I come from a Jewish background, and like many Jewish families in this country, many of whom had an antecedency back into Central and Eastern Europe, they had fled with the pogroms and so on to America. And so America was the land of this golden pavements where fortunes could be earned, and it was the land of paradise, and Jewish families used to talk about this. And so to receive a parcel from America was like receiving it from heaven, if you like. I raced home like a madman to find this wonderful big parcel, and I unwrapped it, tore all the wrapping off, and it was a paint box sent to me by my uncle Fred, who lived in Miami. And I opened up this box, and it was a box of paints by a firm called Grumbacher, who were at the time German manufacturers of art material. It was unbelievable. It had every colour in you can imagine. It had all the brushes, it had all the linseed oil, the turps, the palettes, the palette knives, it had everything. And I just fell in love with it. It was wonderful. And to think that he'd gone to the trouble of finding this box in a store and sending it to me was very flattering, and I loved it. To go on and jump a few years, when I'd gotten older, I was doing my A-levels, and of course, unfortunately, my mother had passed away, and I lived with my father alone in the house. My brother had gone off to university, and I used to stay up all night painting. And my father, who one morning woke up and said, "Look, you didn't go to bed." I said, "No, I didn't go to bed. I wanted to paint." "You must go to bed. You've got school. What are you doing? Have you done your homework?" Blah blah blah. We had all that kind of conversation, and he said to me, well, what have you been doing? I said, well, if you come round this side of the easel, you can see what I'm painting. And he said, okay, you've used Uncle Fred's paints, have you? I said, yes, of course I have. And he looked at this painting, which was an abstract piece. I was going through my abstract period at the time. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, well, what's all this? I said, it's called Menstruation and the Sea. And he said to me, which was a phrase I'll never forget, he said to me, that's a nice way to waste Uncle Fred's paints. And that is the artistic cultural background from whence I've come. I didn't take too much notice of that. One day my parents went down to Ealing, we lived in Greenford at the time, and they bought a picture of a flamenco dancer. They paid £2.50 for it or something like that. And they brought it home, and my father put it up on the wall in the lounge, and I swear to God he thought at that point that he'd become director of the National Gallery. So this is the background in which I've come, but I didn't let that bother me. I carried on painting and drawing.
And do you think that art, your art, was an outlet for you when it was slightly difficult in those sort of teenage years?
Yes, I think that it was something that I held very dear. It was an ability to be able to draw and paint that I knew I had. I, of course, like a lot of creative people, thought my work was rubbish. I still think it's rubbish, by the way. I still don't think it's good enough. Whatever I do, I'm thinking it's not good enough. How do I know that? I'll tell you how I know. I have collected in my adult life Japanese art, which I'm absolutely obsessed with. And when I look and study, as I have done, what the Japanese masters have produced, be it in their paintings, be it in their carvings, be it in their kimonos, be it in their pottery, I realise that I've fallen so far short. They are the masters of the finest handiwork ever known to mankind. That's the standard that I've set myself all the time. I'm never going to reach it, of course, never. So that's why I beat myself up over it all the time, constantly. If one of the Japanese masters were to walk in, or Leonardo or Rembrandt, and say, do you know what, Dick, that's good, that would be unbelievable. That would be worth more money than the whole world has got. I wanted to be a painter, and I applied to Durham Durham University to do an art degree, a fine art degree, 4-year fine art degree. And before I'd taken my A-levels, I went up there by coach overnight. Tremendous experience, because I remember waking up in the coach in the morning, watching all these miners go off to the mine and so on. It was something I wanted to paint. I got to Durham, showed them my work. They said, without question, we're going to take you. You just have to get 3 A-levels, 2 academic and 1 art. No problem. I sat for my A-levels. Unfortunately, my mother either either was dying or had died, and the emotional impact on me, I was a kid, was just horrendous. I passed the 2 academic A-levels, history and economics, and I failed A-level art, so I couldn't go to Durham. I then decided that I still wanted to use my art, and I went into what was then called commercial art, what is now called graphics, and spent my adult career after a while leaving the ad agencies that I went into to run my own firm, and I ran a graphic outfit for the best part of 45 years.
In all that time that you were in that industry, your own creativity took a back seat, but you, like you've already alluded to, you were very interested in the art world, and you became particularly interested in Japanese artists. So how did you feel about not actually indulging in your own creativity apart from just in your working life?
That's a very good question. I felt actually really quite bad about it, but it was a toss-up. I had a wife and family to bring up, kids at school, private school, all the rest of it. The costs were very great, and I knew that I had to make sure that the graphics business was very successful in order to provide my family with the kind of standard of living that I wanted to give them. I wanted to give my family what my parents were unable to give me, and I've always wanted to do that. I've always felt that because unfortunately they passed away and they didn't earn a lot of money anyway, I had the potential to earn money, and therefore I wanted to bring up a family that could enjoy life to the best of its ability. So I had to put all my energy into the graphic world, and therefore my fine art world had to take a back seat.
So fast forward, you retired some years ago now.
Yeah.
And you were able to pick up a paintbrush again.
Yeah.
And what was your inspiration? What was the first thing that you wanted to paint?
I painted a scene called The Devil's Circus, which was an idea that I had. I've always liked circuses because we come back to the animals again, but moreover it was in expressing an idea. I have been, I won't say obsessed, or perhaps I have been, but I have been very, very interested in ideas all my adult life. Ideas in any format. They could be scientific, they could be historical, whatever. I love ideas. I absolutely love ideas, and therefore what I wanted to do was to paint various ideas. I don't want to paint the same thing again and again and again, however well I might paint it. It's same old, same old, same old. I don't want to do that. I want to paint a new idea each time, and so I'm constantly I drive myself mad trying to think of a new idea to paint. And it's got to be a strong idea. It's got to be an idea that will stand up. I want to achieve, what do I want? I want to achieve an effect where somebody looks at my paintings and says, wow, look at that. It's the wow. When doing my graphic work, that's what I wanted from my clients. I worked for some very big people, public companies, professional companies, be they property people, be they lawyers, be they accountants. We worked for some very big companies, and I worked for some real shakers and movers, and when they said to me, wow, that's a wow, I knew that I had achieved. People came to us because, if I can be conceited for a moment, they said, look, we're not getting what we want, go to Dick Segal, he'll give you an idea that's different. And they did, and they came, and I charged them a lot of money because I was the guy with one eye in the land of the blind. If you want my work, you're going to have to pay for it. Problem is that they wanted it within 2 weeks. They said, we'll have it 9 o'clock Tuesday morning, and you'll be here with 3 ideas and we'll choose the best, and each of them have got to be superb. The pressure was enormous for over 47 years, enormous pressure. But the reward was the fees, I've got to admit, and B, the excitement of working for these guys, because they allowed me, because they had themselves become so successful, to produce things that otherwise I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. So I produced outrageous ideas, outrageous not in the sense that they were outrageous in that people didn't go there. I did go there all the time. I was constantly pushing the envelope. I was constantly trying to come up with an idea that people wouldn't normally do, but I would do. I took the chance to do it. And this was very exciting. It actually was very addictive.
So, We've got a few pieces of yours just behind you there, and these are part of the Beatles Paint the Songs collection.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about how that came about.
I have loved the Beatles ever since they started producing their music. When we were younger, teenagers, we used to go from week to week. Every Saturday night there was a party somewhere, and we went to try and pull women, effectively. If you were successful, then we didn't see you for the rest of the night. If you weren't successful, then you joined the poker group. Therefore, although it was great fun to sit and play poker, whether you won or lost, it was really a little bit demeaning because it meant you weren't successful. So we tried very hard to be successful. So it was a constant moving poker group. He didn't turn up, we know what he's doing. He didn't turn up, we know what he's doing. Oh, he's coming, we know what he's not doing. And this is how it went on. But all the time at these parties, they played the latest Beatles song. And I loved the Beatles music. I absolutely loved it. And that's how it came about, because I wanted for a long time to be able to paint my version of the song. It was actually very difficult because the song is very abstract. How do you get that down? But I one day worked out a bridge between the abstract and the physical, the reality of that, by taking the lyrics and converting it to a visual form as closely as I could. And I realised that if I could do that each time, then a painting could come out of each song. The first one I did was Eleanor Rigby, which is my favourite Beatles song. I love them all, but Eleanor Rigby was my real favourite. I have a friend who has an art gallery down in Eastbourne, and he advertises in the local art magazine, which is very prestigious, and they said to him, if you send us 26 paintings, we'll, if we like them, choose one, print it and run a write-up on it. He actually sent 26 paintings of different artists, and he sent a print of Eleanor Rigby. They rejected all 26 paintings and they accepted the Eleanor Rigby. It got printed in the magazine with a write-up. And I thought, crikey, if they think it's that good, which they did, that means I ought to go on and do more. And so that propelled me to continue painting more Beatles songs. And that's why I've continued to do a further 8, I think it is.
Yeah.
Very kind.
And so what do you think the future holds for Dick Segal art, and what do you want people to take from your art?
I don't know what the future holds, because I've got a crystal ball. I leave that to my wife. But what I want to do is to leave a legacy. That's really what I've wanted to do. When I've shuffled off this mortal coil, I want people to still have and know about my work, both my immediate family, my friends, and the public at large who hopefully might buy it. And that's really what I wanted to do all along. It's very important to me. I don't just want to go. If I can go and leave something, then I think I've achieved something. Most people don't have that opportunity, have that chance, but I do have that chance, and I'm trying very hard to make the most of it.